Welcome everybody to News of the Day from the True Health Initiative. I'm Dr. Tom Rifai, lifestyle medicine specialist and editor for News of the Day, and I am super geeked to welcome leaders of the McDougall platform with us today. Heather McDougall, the CEO of the program, the Chief Medical Director, Dr. Anthony Lim. I'm really just super happy to get right into this opportunity for people who are looking for lifestyle support or maybe full transformational lifestyle change and all of the multidisciplinary components of that the McDougall program can provide. Heather, I know that you have been involved in the business of McDougall, and your father's legendary. Okay, it's not a secret. In fact, I remember one of my early heroes and someone we all kind of look at in terms of past. In Nathan Pritikin. I remember watching the interview between Dr. McDougall and Nathan Pritikin, and we have a common friend among all of us in terms of Jeff Novick, and hats off to Jeff. What a wonderful connect there. So I'd like to just get an idea in terms of each of you, maybe give a little bit of a background. Clearly you've had a lot to do with the program and making sure that it is a leader in overall from the website and day-to-day business operations and recipe development and on, that you are clearly integral component. And Dr. Lim, wow, from east to west coast, right? He goes from getting his undergrad at Stanford and then goes all the way on the other side of the land of the brave to out to the East Coast and gets a degree in both law from Harvard. Geez, he's just an underperformer here clearly, and then a medical degree from Boston University, and clearly has a inherent interest in lifestyle as medicine and plant-rich nutrition, which is sadly an exception. So we'll be asking among physicians, and so we'll be asking you how that journey worked out with you. If it's all right with you, with that basic background, I'd like to hear a little bit more about each of your personal stories in passion for lifestyle and plant-rich nutrition. And then I'd like to go into a little bit about what you can offer our viewers regarding the program and opportunities they would have to learn from the McDougall program from wherever they may be. Heather, would you mind starting and giving us a little bit more detail about your path?
Sure. Well, being Dr. McDougall's daughter, I've been around this my whole life. So I've worked for him in one capacity or another since I was 14 years old. So this is part of my life, and it's my passion, and I love it. I wear many hats, as you said, being the CEO, but it's something that means a lot to me. I have 3 boys, and their health and the health of the planet is incredibly important to me. And so that's what keeps me going. And being able to reach people now online has been amazing. There are some good things that have come out of COVID, and pushing us to bring our programs online has been one of them.
So there was no struggle for you in terms of being pushed into it or anything like that. You said since 14 years of age. That's new information to me. So this was really a natural passion for you. Is that fair to say? Or
well, there was struggle. I mean, my dad always jokes that when I rebelled, it was to eat hamburgers. So, but they raised me this way, and this is the way we ate at home, and this was our life, and this is what I was taught. But I had to rebel a little bit and go to the other side. But this is what works, and this is how I live my life, and this is how I raise my children. So I love it. I believe in it,
and that's very natural. I mean, I think there's a little rebel in all of us, and I think we are all better for understanding that it's the totality of what we do in lifestyle that really matters. But you have to have typically a strong anchor and a strong basis in a center of gravity that McDougall is now, as you're stating, bringing to people everywhere and wherever they go. And you're obviously very intimately involved as well, Dr. Lim. Let us know how you both came to the realization that you'd like to practice medicine through a lifestyle first approach, and then the merging of yourself with the McDougall program.
Yeah, well, it's kind of humorous because while Heather at 14 was having beans, brown rice, and broccoli, I was gorging on banana splits and Wendy's Frosties and
And there's
pil-
bananas in there.
and cherries, right? A cherry on top, nuts for that matter. And you know, my brother would make me a corned beef hash from Price Club and Pillsbury croissants, those triangles. So I was eating the standard American diet, and I was the chubbiest kid in my grade all the way through about 5th, 6th grade. So I started off with the standard American diet. I mean, my parents took me out to some good Chinese food, but a lot of junk. And that actually, I mean, it was a tough period of my life, being the, you know, the fattest kid in the grade and being teased and all of that. But I'm kind of looking back on it, I'm thankful, because what it did is it fueled a lifelong interest in nutrition. I remember sitting on the floor of they don't even have it now. It's called Crown Books. Maybe you remember. There's a bookstore called Crown Books. And I would just be sitting on the ground reading about nutrition and realizing like all the mistakes I was making. And so what preceded was I've done every dietary phase. I've done slim fast, and I did you know, the low carb. I did the whole low fat phase of the 80s, where you felt like you could eat everything as long as it said fat free. Kind of fell into the Mediterranean. You know, around 2013, you know, during my residency, I went to Boston University for med school from 2006 to 2010, and then came out here to Santa Rosa for family medicine residency. I remember being the keto guy during residency. And I was basically preaching to all my colleagues and my attendings how the secret to health was eating bacon and sausage, hold the toast. And I remember going to In-N-Out and ordering their sort of animal style burgers. So I kind of traced out my whole way through that. And then graduated residency. And 2014, I was just watching PBS. And I saw Dr. Joel Fuhrman come on the screen, and I had never met him or heard of him. And he mentioned 4 words that, despite 4 years of med school and 3 years of residency, were new to me: whole food, plant-based, and presented all sorts of evidence, sort of supporting this way of eating that blew my mind away. And that was the starting point, summer of 2014. And then what preceded was just kind of a growing interest in this area. And then the opportunity of a lifetime, 2015, when Dr. McDougall and Dr. Goldhammer at True North Health Center put out an ad for a joint medical staff position with their 2 organizations. And by that point, I knew who they both were. I remember having it on my list of things to do is one day meet them, you know, one day sort of like shadow for half a day. And because I was local in Santa Rosa by that time.
Bucket list check.
Yeah, it's bucket list check, just sort of, you know, kind of develop in this area, and this opportunity to actually work for both organizations was really a dream. And I thought, well, not much chance I'll get it, considering that 2 years ago, I was eating animal style burgers. So it's not like I have this long resume of 10 years in the plant-based movement, but I thought I would apply, and somehow it worked out. So since 2015, I have been with both True North Health Center and the McDougall Program. And it's been a dream job, to be honest.
That's wonderful to hear. And you know, if I can back you up, I think that when you've been there, done that, it provides you that much more, you know, credibility in the process. It really adds a perspective from a personal perspective that enhances your professional perspective that I think is very valuable. So I love self-deprecation though as well. So I'm always into that type of humor. But you know, credit to you. That's a huge added part of your resume, that you have been multifaceted and you've seen it and you can understand from that perspective. And we've all had to kind of, you know, pivot through the pandemic from, you know, what we thought was the gold standard in person, face to face, and nothing against that. I mean, it's fine. And I'm not necessarily saying it's the horse and buggy, but these days, if you are not facile enough to leverage the skills that you can provide people through a digital framework, you're in some trouble. And you have done that, correct, Heather?
We have, yeah. I mean, once we saw at, beginning of April that things were not going to get better quickly, we adapted. We just put all hands on deck to make our 10-day, now 12-day program into an online experience. And how are we going to do everything that we did at our in-person events? That was a challenge, but we've met it. And I think we've exceeded that challenge. We were a little worried, or is it going to be the same? They're not going to be able to cook for themselves, but adherence has been better. Weight loss has been better. We've really spent a lot of time having that one-on-one interaction, having a lot of group chats, Q&A, a lot of chances for people to interact and ask questions. And it's been fun. I mean, before March, I'd never Zoomed before. And now, it's a huge part of my life. So it's been amazing.
And here we are on Zoom. And so it is an immersive experience. So it really gets people off to kind of a kickstart. And there now, I think what you mentioned or might have implied, and I don't want to mischaracterize it, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but that there's something about having them do it in their actual own environment that may add to and enhance the potential. Not that there's anything wrong to come to a beautiful, perfected atmosphere or setting in a sort of residential kind of setting, but there is something about doing it in the real world that it maybe serendipitously we're learning makes it even a better value. So in light of that, Dr. Lim, what would like a day, you don't have to go into lurid detail, but what would a day in the 12-day intensive kind of look like? What would someone who says, oh, I'm interested in this, and what can they kind of expect overall?
Well, on different levels, they will get different things. So in terms of the medical care, they will meet with me at the start, like even before the program begins. And we meet anywhere from 30 minutes to, I'll be honest, the longest went 2 hours. I had a 2-hour initial visit. And it's really going over their entire medical history, family history, social history, honestly, is a big one. And just trying to understand them better and kind of already start recommendations about medications that they should discontinue and certain behavioral lifestyle steps I recommend they already start taking. They'll meet with me again at the midpoint of the program, about 5-6 days through, and then one more time at the end where we kind of wrap everything up. And then I dictate a letter for them to show their doctor with kind of their instructions going forward. That's the medical piece. But then on a day-to-day, they're checking in every morning with one of their support specialists. We have two, Tiffany and Corey, who are basically holding their hands from day one, or even before the program begins, and just giving them all the support that they need, because they not only need kind of the nuts and bolts, a lot of times they need emotional and social support. And I know that you believe in accountability. It's one of your 5 values, right?
Compassionate accountability.
Yes, compassionate accountability. And so that's what they provide. One of the treats of the online piece is that in the past, Dr. McDougall would come down to lecture for a few days, but then he and Mary would need to go back home. Now they're able to meet with Dr. McDougall every morning for a morning chat. And I think that's a real highlight for them to just be able to ask all the questions they want in a very unhurried manner, kind of like a morning informal chat session. Then they have a morning lecture and an afternoon lecture. So one at 9 a.m. and then another usually at 4 p.m. And sometimes they will have, 3 p.m., Heather, they will have like a success story person come on, or a cooking demo. It's an exercise physiologist. Jack Dixon will talk to them about movement. Dr. Lyle will talk to them about the psychology aspect. Jeff is just just an encyclopedia and hilarious. So he keeps things entertaining. And we were just remarking the other day that each member of the team were all so different from each other personality wise, yet somehow, it just fits. We complement each other really well. So there's a real synergy. It's been honestly, it's been a very effortless sort of integration of our team throughout these years.
Can I ask also something you mentioned very important, and I'm glad that you brought it up, and one of the critical components of having the high quality medical oversight that you do. And one is, in actuality, maybe that's not medical, but also talks to your skills in the psych and social areas. You discussed the importance of their social environment. What do they have as far as supporters versus saboteurs, if you will, if I may oversimplify it. And then you also mentioned a very critical point in lifestyle medicine, and that is the necessity for planning the deprescribing of pharmaceutical medicine, PHRM. And when you start to replace with FARM, pharmaceutical, or if you will, lifestyle as medicine, and that's an art form. So if maybe just a moment about how you discuss and try to investigate what is that social support, because you're seeing someone one-on-one, but to pretend we're an island unto ourselves, we know that we're not,
Right.
And then also the idea of the plan deprescribing, knowing the power of what McDougall and lifestyle medicine is doing, may very well necessitate some planning, and pretty quick sometimes, on de-intensifying the pharmaceutical a regimen that they're on.
Right. Well, yeah, speaking to the first, I will be honest, that is one of my primary areas of interest, which is just this idea that everyone here probably watching this knows the power of plants, right? Knows the power of whole plant food to radically transform our health. But what I've noticed now in 6 years in this role is that as much as we would like everyone to just get it right off the bat, not everyone does, right? And some people struggle. And for most of those people who struggle, it's not because they don't know what to do. It's because they have difficulty implementing and putting into practice what they know to be good for them. And that inevitably comes down to the psychosocial, emotional, environmental aspects. So I feel like if I don't understand that aspect of their personality, I can talk till I'm blue in the face about the power of cruciferous vegetables and legumes. If their life is topsy-turvy, they're still going to be driven to the high calorie dense fat, sugar, salt items. And so I found lately what I'm kind of advising patients on is twofold. On one track, we want to learn the McDougall diet, how to cook it, what to do when you eat out, how to make this happen when you travel. But then on the other sort of road of the journey is why. When you feel like you're stressed out and you're turning to certain foods, why are you going to those foods? And what can we do about the upstream reasons that you are turning to foods that you know not to be good for you? And so if we're hitting both of those in tandem, rather than solely focusing on here's what you should eat and why, then I think it just, provides a little bit more of a holistic view of their overall health and gets them to look at some of the deeper reasons. I'm kind of the belief that for some people, food is like alcohol. For some people, food is like nicotine. And in some sense, it is more of a symptom than the ultimate root cause. So we have to address both aspects. So I need to know who's in their home. I need to know whether the people in their home are supporting this way of eating or are belittling them with each meal. I need to know their work-life balance because I need to know that if they're working from 6 a.m. till 10 p.m., we could talk to them about how to prep meals, but they're going to be too tired and too stressed out, and they're going to go for the easiest thing available to them. I need to know what sources of stress coping they have when life gets stressful, because if things are smooth, they could do great. But what I find is that for most people who kind of fall off the wagon, it wasn't when things were going great. It was when something unexpected happened, a death in the family, unemployment, a pandemic. And so I want to know that even if their stress quotient goes up, that we're building resiliency skills to match those stressful circumstances. And it's not easy, but at least by planting the seed and getting them to think in that way, it's both humbling, but it's also inspiring them because it forces them to make changes at deeper levels in other areas of their life besides just their food. In terms of the medications, it's the reason I love this area of medicine is because it works it works well, and it works quickly. And if patients are actually able to follow what we're telling them to do, then it would be dangerous to keep them on all their blood pressure medications, and it would be dangerous to keep them on all their diabetes medications. We work with both Lumen and Whole Foods. So we run an employee immersion program. We just ran a Lumen program the end of last year. This is one of our star patients. She came in on amlodipine, losartan, and hydrochlorothiazide, 3 blood pressure medications, and metformin and glimepiride, 2 diabetes medications. She's off all 5 of them, and her blood pressure, she's down 20 pounds. We went in our last call 1 month ago. She's down 20 pounds since the end of last year. She's off all her blood pressure medications with a blood pressure in the 120s over 80s. And she's off all her diabetic medications with fasting blood sugar in the 120s. I mean, that's, it's remarkable. So imagine if she was on all of those medications, she would be hypotensive and lightheaded and falling and at risk for hypoglycemia.
Possibly in the parking lot of Whole Foods,
right.
which we don't want. That is
exactly.
That is wonderful. And with so much, and we're obviously as physicians, there's FDA indications for certain medications, certain times, but with so much headline about a new drug to manage this cardiometabolic issue or that, even the most recent one, which I'll leave unnamed because it's not relevant, on breakthrough for obesity management. And then ironically, I read in the paper, which is in the New England Journal, it wasn't the drug the first 68 weeks, but it was plus lifestyle support. And you're thinking, really, that's the engine. If anything, a medication might be a turbocharger, or maybe is a better word, but it's not the engine.
Right.
The engine is the lifestyle.
Absolutely.
And so, Heather, the concept of having this pivot and then having this immersion always begs the question of the support afterwards. So what is happening in terms of after the immersion? And Jeff gave me some idea, but I'd like you to maybe to kind of follow up a bit on what happens after, the chapter after Star Wars. What's Empire Strikes Back? What's Return of the Jedi? I'm sorry, I do a lot of Star Wars analogies, but what's that next chapter? How does that support work after the 12-day immersion?
So that's been one of the great things that we've added to our online course that we never had for our in-person events, is 1 year of support from our support specialists. So for the first 3 months, they check in weekly, one-on-one video calls. And then for the 9 months after that, they're monthly video calls. And then every month, Dr. McDougall, Mary, and myself check in with the whole group. So there's a lot of accountability. There's a lot of support, weekly for the first 3 months. And after the first 3 months, they've really gotten it. So it's okay to go down to monthly, but we're here. I mean, when they graduate, they get all of our email addresses. I mean, our goal is for them to succeed. And we always say this is simple, but not easy. So we know there's going to be bumps and questions, and we want to be here to guide them through that with no judgment. I mean, we get it, like Anthony and I, we both have had our ups and downs, and we've experimented, and that's okay. What's important is that you get back on track, and we're there to do that. And so the year of support has been really fun, really great to get to know people. I mean, I feel like I know these people so much better now that I see them monthly, and
so you're creating a community. You're creating a community, and by the way, I really have to say, I wasn't expecting you to say it, but you really, in my opinion, nailed something when you said simple but not easy. And there's a difference, but we make it, and I mean society as a whole, seems to make it seem like it's so complicated. Look, it's challenging enough. It's not that complicated, but the support is so important. If it were that easy, then we'd just have no issues, right? There wouldn't be a cardiometabolic or diabetes epidemic. It'd be hard to achieve that. I'd have patients coming to me saying, Dr. Rifai, you're a specialist in diabetes. Oh yes, okay, I want diabetes. Can you help me get it? Because it's so hard. It's not. But if you look at the difference, I mean, if your friend is stuck under a car, it's really not complicated. It's not easy. You better find 8 strong people really fast and lift the darn car. But you don't need physics formulas. You don't need a PhD. It ain't complicated. It's not easy, but it's not complicated. and that support that helps people transition from the old habits die hard, and you have to kind of chip away at them, and you establish these new plants of no pun intended, of planting new seeds of new behaviors that you have to foster them, and you have to water them, and that's what you're doing throughout the support program. And then I imagine if somebody has a slip, if you will, as Dr. Lim was talking about, that they could re-engage and go up in intensity if they need.
Oh, absolutely. We actually offer weekly support ongoing after the first 3 months if they want that for an additional charge. And some people do. They love that weekly check-in with Tiffany or Corey. They love that accountability. But they're always welcome to come back and re-engage, and we'll do what we need to do. Either they need to see Dr. Lim or just check in with one of us, but we give them that community, that sense that they're not alone, because we don't live in an environment that supports this type of lifestyle. So that's a lot of times why it's so challenging. But then you just come back to McDougall and you say, okay, there are other people that think like I do. I'm not crazy. This isn't weird. And that's been really great for people.
And your father as well has said, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but speaking of this flexibility, this discipline without extremism, that on Thanksgiving, that's a special day for him, and he might have a bit of turkey, and he doesn't like the concept of being described as in any way as rigid, that it's really a lifestyle, and that it's the totality of choices that matter over time. And what about in terms of you don't have to reveal everything, but we're going to go a little bit. I may be throwing you off a little bit, but a day with Heather or a day with Dr. Lim, what is what's a favorite breakfast, and then what do you do for physical activity? You don't have to deep delve too much, but give us a little bit of what's your day like as a representative of Lifestyle as Medicine yourself.
Well, my favorite breakfast is oatmeal with blueberries and bananas. Pretty boring. That's kind of the standard McDougall fare.
It works. Tastes great.
Yeah.
I have it on my menu frequently. So, and then you make it how? Do you make it the night before? Or just give people a little bit of, or do you make it on the spot?
I just make it on the spot. I have 3 teenage boys, and they also enjoy oatmeal in the morning, thankfully. And I just make a big pot of it, and I have it on the stove, and everyone can help themselves and put what fruit they want on it, little brown sugar. But I've always got food. I mean, that's how my family's successful, is we've always got food in the fridge. We always have food prepared. I've always got beans and rice and fruit and veggies ready, so that we've got food when we need it. We eat when we're hungry. Beans and rice, Mexican food is a common staple in our house. And, I find that having those foods available for my boys, they're more likely to choose the healthier option. So I cook and shop and, prep meals quite a bit in the house. And to stay active, I go hiking. I have a neighbor. We do hiking twice a week, 7 miles.
So social connection built into the physical activity, and what you were just saying which is, yes, you are what you eat, but you eat what surrounds you. So you kind of made sure to set it up for success in the household. It's a culture of the McDougall castle, if you will.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, life's been different. We're at home. My kids are learning online, but we're making the best of it. And we haven't gained the COVID-15, we've been eating, or the COVID-19, we've been eating well and staying active and finding things to do. We're making the best of things, and lots of Zoom calls, lots of Zoom meetings, and, our 12-day course, it runs about every 5 weeks. So that takes up, 12 days of our time. It's, an intensive morning and an intensive afternoon. And so we've been busy. It's been great.
That's great. So there's a lot of interest. There's a lot of interest out there. Well, what would you say then, and this can be to either of you then, is your, I don't know if there's an ideal. I personally think anyone that's willing to make lifestyle changes and their level of motivation defines their level of being ideal or not. But beyond that, let's presume people are motivated, they're reaching out to you. What would be the type of person, I hate to say patient because we're talking about real people, but person or patient that could really, benefit, although everybody can, as if you're 18 and you're motivated, good for you, prevent the problem, go for it. But who might be the ideal, classic range of McDougall participant?
I mean, I'll say that I think, yeah, I think you kind of put your finger on it. It is someone who has, who realizes there is something that just doesn't seem right about the way that they are eating or living their life, that they know there is a healthier way out there. They really believe it, that they believe that the McDougall diet is going to take them more in that direction. And perhaps most importantly, they are very motivated, you know, to that, because the people, some people, you know, we know the whole readiness for change, right? And one level is, you know, how motivated they are, but another level is how confident they are. So if they, sometimes people know they could make the change, but they're just not that motivated to do it. They like whatever they're eating too much, but if they both know they need to make the change and they're motivated to do it, then they're in that sweet spot. And then my personal favorite, I like working with people who are humble, who are willing to say they don't have all the answers. They're willing to learn. They're willing to change. Yeah, and the people who are proud and can't sort of see that they have any issues are, those are the toughest ones.
And it's notable that both of you, and something I appreciate a lot, have expressed in a sense how much you are humble in not only your personal journeys, but about learning about others, that there isn't this, I've got the answer, really don't need to know anything about you, this is what you do.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that prescriptive approach. What is your, again, don't have to delve too deep into it, Dr. Lin, but your day, you know, what is I guess you mentioned the breakfast, but if you want to give a number two favorite, that's fine. How do you
I'm a batch cooker. I'm a batch cooker. So I will make a huge batch. So this morning I made a huge batch of steel cut oats with Asian pears. Like I boiled some Asian pears, then threw some oatmeal in it. And then that's like in my Tupperware. And then I'll just scoop that out. So I scooped a big scoop of that out this morning, microwaved it, and then threw in a ton of Costco frozen blueberries with Costco organic walnuts and mashed banana as my sweetener. And I just stirred that all up. It was a bowl this big. And I'm set for the morning. I had some chai tea. Lunch, you know, oftentimes I'm Asian, so I'll make Chinese style. I'll make this big thing of soup, and I just get the water boiling. I throw in some ginger, and then I just cut up tons of potatoes into cubes, and I'll take some Napa cabbage, you know, whatever Chinese vegetables I have, cut those up, throw those in, mushrooms, shiitake mushrooms, some green onion, and I'll literally have a huge pot of it that I can just dole it out. I'll make huge pots of brown rice, huge things of beans. So I'm not too picky, and I like to practice what I preach, that, you know, I veer much more towards whole plant foods. I am not vegan, so I kind of take my lead from Dan Buettner and the Blue Zones, that it's what you do 90% of the time for the average person that matters the most. If you find that 10% leads you to enlarge in that, then maybe you can't handle that, right? And that's fair, but then just own it, that, you know, as Dr. McDougall says to some patients, moderation is not an option. So you need to know if that's the case for you. If having a bite of that dark chocolate is going to lead to you eating 3 bars of dark chocolate, then that's you know, you might need to draw that line and say, I can't even have any chocolate. But for me, I could have a square of dark chocolate and really enjoy it, and then not think about it after. So
fair enough.
So that's on the.
And let me you both brought up something that, and maybe this is also an ode to, I'm sure Jeff is saying, you better say this. Both of you brought up abundance without even, there was not even a note about portion control. If anything, we are talking about the concept of, well, maybe we're going to bring up the technical term calorie density in a second, but the idea is that it's not about restriction and to see how much hunger you need to achieve whatever weight loss. And as a matter of fact, if anything, honing in on the therapeutic type of foods you're talking about. And the last thing you typically need to worry about, unless you want to make it a contest to see how much you can overstuff yourself beyond fullness, is to worry about hunger. It is built into the concepts taught at the McDougall program that you can definitely feel full for less calories without having to count calories. Is that a fair kind of summary? And how does that work?
Absolutely.
How does that work? How are
We
you
tell
able to
people
eat all
to
that?
eat when you're hungry, eat till you're comfortably full. We do not want you to be hungry. We do not want you to portion control, count calories, none of that. Just eat the right types of foods, starches with vegetables and fruits. And it's a hard concept for people to get because they've spent so much of their lives restricting themselves and thinking that food is the enemy. And it's just the wrong kinds of foods that they've been eating. And once they switch that and pivot to the starches, it's just amazing. And we teach the optimal diet, but we don't require people to be 100%, or people find out what works with their lifestyle and how they're going to continue on with this lifestyle, because it's not a diet. It's something we want them to do for the rest of their lives. So how are they going to make it work in their lives? And I think at the 12-day program, we spend a lot of time helping people do that, and letting them know they don't have to be perfect. You can, but you don't have to.
I like this. And Dr. Lim, when we're talking about, some people hear starch and they go, oh, no, you're not supposed to have starch. Yet I think what we have, I think what we're honing in here is there's a difference between a baked potato and a potato chip, right? I mean, and there's a concept in there that I think you, and it might be others too, I'm sure, but have discussed, and I've seen about this calorie concentration or calorie density. Can you give us a moment on that?
Yeah, I mean, calorie density is one of my favorite topics to lecture on. And, I was first exposed to it from Jeff Novick. I mean, that's sort of his baby is calorie density. He's an expert on that subject. And so he taught me a lot. I'm thankful to him for that. And just take the example you brought up, a potato, let's just call it 300 calories per pound, right? The energy density per unit weight. So 300 calories per pound, and compare that to a potato chip, probably, let's just call it 2,200 calories per pound. So over a 7-fold difference in calorie density. And so you can just eat a lot more of the low calorie dense foods, which happen to be vegetables, fruits, whole grains or starchy vegetables, and then legumes in that order. So I just think, nature is beautiful. The human body is beautiful. And I really try to emphasize to patients just kind of this concept of what Heather mentioned, that it's the simplicity, the elegance of the human system to just know when it's had enough food and be satiated if you give it the right fuel. And achieving these optimal weights without even having to count calories or portion control, it just kind of fits with how I would view nature would work, right? I mean, back 100, 200 years ago, people were very slim in general, and they're not counting calories. So why are we resorting to these ridiculous sort of unsustainable ways of keeping our weight down rather than just eating the right
chronic
food?
hunger, right?
Yeah,
it's like trying
exactly.
to ask someone to avoid secondhand smoke by holding their breath.
Right.
So the concept, and by the way, as an aside, if you're worried about protein, lentils and beans and peas have phenomenal quality sources of protein, but there's different ways to get water in there, right? You mentioned the legumes, so people are cooking the water into the food there. Through roots in the ground, so to speak, with tubers and starchy vegetables or leafy or cruciferous or fruits. And so one way or the other, though, you're getting that water in there, but it's the water in the food, right? I mean, it's not an issue. Have a raisin once in a while, but you can't eat raisins, drink water, and pray they turn back into grapes.
Right. No, doesn't work that way. We get asked that a lot.
So the water is in the food. It provides that weight and fullness, but so you're definitely satisfied, since weight is such an important part of satiety. And as last I read, it was somewhere around, maybe 4 pounds of food per day the average American might eat. So even at potatoes at 300, that's 1,200 calories. Nobody's gaining weight from the beaten up, downtrodden, beautiful potato. I'm sorry, I'm just stating it right here. Stop beating up on the potato.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so
What,
yeah, go ahead.
there's a funny quote from a patient of ours a few years back after the 10-day program. In my exit visit with her, she said, "Dr. Lim, all my life I've been searching for that magic pill, that thing that I could do that could just give me optimal health, and I've never been able to find it. I've tried this, I've tried that, it's never worked. I finally realized what it is." It's like, "What?" It's like, "It's a potato." And she literally held up a potato. I'm like, you get it. You get it. That is the magic pill. And I've been, this last week, I've probably interviewed 25 patients for this upcoming program that starts next week. And it's been so fun. Just 2 days ago, one mother-daughter parents in near Seoul, Korea, in South Korea, another person in Beijing, China, and then 2 people in Canada who had immigrated from China. It's a very international program. I love that. I just think that in interviewing these patients, there's just a lot of excitement, a lot of motivation, a lot of desire to come off their medications and make these lifestyle changes. During the program, it never fails to disappoint. They just leave more excited than ever. So.
And your reports are coordinated with the primary care doctors, so they have that kind of continuity. And how do you communicate to the primary care? Either is there a digital piece that they might get and they can send it to their primary care doc, or do you send a note?
Well, what I do is I dictate. Still old school, so I'll dictate and then send it to our amazing transcriptionist Trish, and then comes out in this nice letterhead, and that's sent to the patient, and then they will typically at their next primary care visit bring that to the primary care doctor. But sometimes, just the other day, I was on with we have a patient with rheumatoid arthritis, and the doctor wanted to speak with me, and so we had a great chat in the morning. And I love that because it's just a chance to educate other doctors who are still kind of stuck in that mentality of, you see a problem, you treat it with medications. And so just to even like a few minutes just to say, that was me. And just so you know, it is the closest thing to a modern day miracle when you see patients in a matter of 12 days come off medications just by changing the way they eat. It's awesome.
And it's testimony to the concept too, that when a doc has a motivated patient, to give them that opportunity, and that frankly the system isn't really designed to do that well all in all, and therefore opportunities like McDougall are out there, and we want people to know. So Heather, how does I think you mentioned there's a program that's coming up soon, and I imagine that's probably full already, but in general, how do people learn more? And it can be, by the way, if there's a book you'd like to suggest, or how to engage with the program, but how do people in general start to expose themselves to the universe of McDougall, if you will?
So you just start by going to our website, which is drmcdougall.com. And from there, you can read all about the course. It's very, very detailed sample schedule, frequently asked questions. And then if you need more information, you can call Carol, our office manager, and she'll speak with you directly. Sometimes I'll even do a Zoom call with someone that's interested in the program. So, really any way we can reach people. But the first step is to go to our website. And this program is sold out, but our next one is in April, and we still have space available for that one.
And one really nice feature, which people out there should be aware of, is that you can arrange a new patient consultation, a one-time new patient consultation with me to kind of go over your medical history and determine suitability for the program. And if you do end up signing up for the program, the cost of the consultation is 100% applied to the program fees, which means essentially the consultation was free. And that's been, so a lot of patients come through that way because, it's an investment, right? And we don't want anyone to invest in the program for whom it is not a really good fit. And there are those patients where after a half-hour conversation, we can tell this, given where they're coming from and given what we offer, this isn't the best fit. And I'll send them wherever would be if possible. And that allows them just to pay for the consultation and not have to invest all the time and effort. So that's just another thing that it's good for them to be aware of.
Well, Heather and Anthony, thank you so much for taking the time to explain the process and how lifestyle medicine works at the McDougall program. It's great to have champions that are out there, and resources are sometimes difficult for people to understand or know where to go. So we think this is a great way for people to have not just seen the beautiful examples they'll see on drmcdougall.com, but to meet too and really kind of get into your lives a little bit and learn about what makes you tick. I truly appreciate the time, and on behalf of the True Health Initiative and News of the Day, thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful Valentine's Day weekend to both of you.
Thanks, Tom. That was
Thank you.
fun.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.